Hello, everyone out there in listener land. It is Greg Unchained from the B Plus podcast here. Just a quick reminder to you that we have launched a Patreon. Episodes like this one, bonus episodes, will be able to be heard 1 week earlier. So what you're about to listen to, you could have heard this a week ago if you were a patron on our Patreon page. So please, if you like what we do, and if you want to stay up to date, join the community, jump on call-in shows, tell us what you want us to talk about. I mean, you can do that anyway on Twitter and what have you, but, you know, in a super producer role where you are guaranteed to get custom episodes every month, if you want these sorts of things, you need to head over to our Patreon. It is patreon.com/theb+. As low as every dollar helps. So as low as $1, you can help us out, help us grow the network, help us get new content, get new gear, get on YouTube, all that sort of stuff for as little as $1 a month. It's up to you how much you want to give us. But there's all sorts of really cool rewards, and we're planning to come up with new ones as well. So shoot us a message if there's a reward you'd like to see. But in the meantime, it is patreon.com/theb+.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Hold one, Andre.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two, on bar.
It's still real to me, damn it.
Dummy. Yeah.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Hold three. Tomas covers. Three-handle family Gradunzo.
Mamma mia!
And now,
Unchained.media presents the B Plus Podcast with your host, Greg Unchained.
It's me, Austin. It was me all along, Austin.
number four, armbar.
I will never retire. I still got 200 more. I got 200 more holes to lift.
All right, fellow B Plus players, welcome to the B Plus podcast. I'm your host, Greg Unchained. Today is, well, we're recording this on a Monday, but this is a bonus episode, so it doesn't really matter what day it is. A very special hello to B Plus super producer from our Patreon, Julian, who requested this. This is the first ever custom episode. Hurrah! The first ever, first of its kind. And he has requested that we talk about, we're doing a little bit of a round table. We could only muster together 3 people for now, but we're doing a little bit of a round table talking about the top 5 wrestlers we have seen perform live. So, very interesting topic. Joining me to break it down and to give us their top 5, we have Mr. Mysterious.
Hey guys, how you doing?
And we have Aiden,
Hello, people.
whose name in the chat for some reason is Shitted and Farted.
Why?
That's been my whole day, man. Habanero sauce not agreeing with me right now.
Right. Nice. Yeah. So, Shitted and Farted and Mr. Mysterious. Now, the top 5 wrestlers you've seen live. It's a big question.
It's a big ask, and there's a lot of ways we could go about it.
Yeah. So, I guess the first thing to do is probably lay out the criteria, because we didn't talk about criteria beforehand, and we've ended up with very different lists as a result. My criteria, I sort of looked at, and this is sort of the worst criteria ever, because it's so hard to define, but the aura. Does that make sense? Like the aura around the person?
Just that they define what professional wrestling is to you when you've seen them perform.
Not even that. Just like when I've seen these 5 individuals perform, I've just thought that person is a special person. Just in, like, they're a star. Like when they step between, whether they're like that in real life or not, I don't care. I don't know. When they step between the curtain, when they come through the curtain, step between the ropes, they emanate this feeling of that person's important and I need to pay attention. Does that make sense? Like, that's the list.
I've got that on my list as well with a few people. Like, I ran it through my head, like, what they've done, how they present themselves in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So mine is less to do with the actual in-ring performance. It's kind of, it's more about just that feel of this person's a megastar.
Mine's
Okay.
that, but also I took in match quality. So, like, I took the best of both worlds and just made a list from that.
Right. And what sort of criteria did you give yourself, Mysterious?
I did more the in-ring and the athleticism, but to add on to that, where because I've seen a few international stars come to WA over here, and they are amazing performers. They are some of the best ranked performers around the world, but at the same time, in their showings in Australia, when I saw them live, some of them they didn't have the best showing. Sometimes they were in tag matches, or they didn't get a chance to shine. So some of them,
Right.
my list might surprise some people.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's dive into it. Before we start, and we don't know what Mikey's criteria was, but Mikey was bummed out that he couldn't make it for the recording of this episode, and so he wanted me to read his out by proxy. So he's given us number 5. He has Zack Sabre Jr. Number 4, he has Jonah Rock. Number 3, he has Ricochet. Number 2, Will Ospreay. And number 1, Robbie Eagles. Now, this is probably, looking at this, it feels like a match quality ranking for me. That's what I'm guessing his ranking was based on.
Yeah, I could see it from in-ring work, match quality. There's nothing really there besides probably Will Ospreay, which is character work and like the aura, like you said.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Robbie Eagles, I would, if it was coming down to just sort of quality of ring work and quality of performance on the times I've seen them, like I've seen Robbie Eagles probably more than any other wrestler live. I've seen Robbie Eagles a whole bunch of places, a whole bunch of times, and so he could very easily make number 1 on my list if I was following that criteria as well. But alas, he didn't make my list at all. I feel kind of bad about that because he is kind of the top Australian wrestler, and my favorite Australian wrestler, as everyone knows, is Shazza McKenzie. And even though she's my favorite Australian wrestler and one that I have seen perform live in a lot of places and everything, she hasn't made my list either. So I feel like I have a really weird list.
We could have a lot of honorable mentions throughout if we wanted to, but yeah.
Yeah, a lot of honorable mentions. We'd be here all night. There's a lot of great wrestlers to watch live. But let's dive in with number 5. Number 5 for me, I started very close to home, just down the road. A 20-minute drive from me if I wanted to go watch him live any week. Chris Basso of Riot City Wrestling fame.
Chris Basso, from what I've seen, he is a star. Like he was one of the most popular in Riot City for a long time until recently. I don't know why the crowd turned on him, but he presents himself like a star, and he's very by the book wrestler.
Yeah. Yeah, again, in terms of quality of matches, though, he puts on, he doesn't have bad matches.
No, he's always consistent. Recently they uploaded that Zach Sabbath match, and I rewatched that after being there live, and it's very good. Yeah,
his ring work is solid. He always makes people look good when you step in the ring with him. You look like a star because you're in there against this guy who just looks like a star. He looks so good wearing a belt, which is real important for me as a wrestling fan. Like, if the guy looks weird wearing a belt, I can't get into them, right? I never got into Undertaker as a champion until he was the biker taker and he used to wear it around his neck. Just because he looked weird holding a belt because he's the Undertaker. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
I don't know if you guys saw, there was a video, I think it was when he was world champion, and he came out to his dead man theme, of course, but the way the light flashed on him and the way the World Heavyweight Championship looked around his waist, it looked like he wasn't wearing a shirt, and it looked like he was wearing a push-up bra or something or other. Just the whole aura sometimes of it. Yeah, I kind of see that.
Yeah, how a person looks with a belt or how they present themselves with a belt is very important to me, because a star will be a champion, and Chris Basso has been a champion, and he always looks great as a champion. He's got the robes and everything, and yeah, it's just when you see him, you look at the ring and you feel like I'm watching a star perform, and that's, like I said, that's the criteria that I went with. And so that's why Chris Basso made my list at number 5, the only Australian to make my list, surprisingly enough. I'm the Aussie Graps guy.
Number 5 for me is Will Ospreay. I saw him, I saw him live for the first time against, was it Brooksy at MCW Ballroom Brawl in 2017, I'm pretty sure.
Nice, yeah. Good match.
Yeah. I followed him during Progress, and I'm like, I have to see this guy. He's fantastic. And that match was crazy. And then the week later, I went back to Melbourne and saw him against Robbie Eagles and Adam Brooks in that 3-way.
Classic match.
And MCW 100 against Slicks, and they were just all crazy matches.
Had the chance to see him with New Japan. He was in a triple threat with Cody and Robbie Eagles. That was a fantastic showing.
Yeah. See, Will Ospreay is someone who would be on my list had I been able to see him live, I'm sure. I've never actually seen him live.
The way he presents himself, he's always consistent with his in-ring work. He's just a once-in-a-lifetime talent. Like, you're in awe watching him.
Yeah, absolutely. Wait, actually, I may have seen him. Was he on the New Japan tour?
No, he wasn't.
No, he did. Yeah, he didn't make. He wasn't on the Adelaide leg, at least.
No.
Oh, okay.
He was on everything but Adelaide, which disappointed a lot of people.
Right, yeah. So, well, I was just stoked to be going to a New Japan show, and you'll see that later on in my list. So let's move on to Mr. Mysterious.
Mine might surprise some people. Mine was number 5, the real wrestler Gavin McGavin.
Doesn't surprise me one bit. I haven't seen him live yet. Again, another one who should be on my list, but I haven't seen live. Yeah,
Gavin is great, but are you biased because he's from Perth?
No, that's the thing. I think mainly because I tried to think of like, okay, what Australian wrestlers have I seen perform at such a high level alongside a lot of the international talent? And the first time I saw Gavin, it was a Royal show. They were doing about 3 or 4 different segments in the afternoon. Gavin wrestled every single segment. So he did about 36 matches throughout 7 or 8 days. So he pulled, and some of them were for the title. And the next time I saw him was for World Series Wrestling, where he went up against Brody King and Marcus Pitt. And just his...
That would have been great.
It was amazing. One of the spots, I think I mentioned it when I talked to Greg on all the rest, was that for a triple threat match, right out of the gate, he low blows Brody King. Triple threat match, no DQ. One of those things like no one says it, but it's always there.
Yeah, no one starts a match like that because triple threats are no DQ, and so to just immediately take advantage of that is brilliant.
I've never heard of anyone doing that before. I respect that.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that's the first time I'd seen that happen, and just he understands not only Australian wrestling, but he just understands like grappling and everything else on a really fundamental level, and that's one of the reasons why, I am a mark for the real wrestler. I can't help it.
He's one of the best going around. Like, I've seen him here a couple times for Riot City. And
I haven't been able to make it to the shows he's done for Riot City, unfortunately, and so he's not on my list. But I'm a huge mark for Gavin McGavin, so it doesn't surprise me at all that he's made the list.
It should be as well because of the Gavin vs Australia tour.
Everyone's
raving about it.
Yeah, and rightly so. I'm seeing a lot more of those yellow lion shirts on my Instagram feed, which is good. I'm very happy to see that because we support. I'm sorry. Concrete Davidson, black shirt, cool group. Black shirts aren't cool with wrestling shirts. Anything else but black shirts is cool. So support non-black shirts. I'm sorry. I have to say it. Number 4 for me. Number 4, and this is going way back. I can't even remember what year it was I saw him. I probably should have looked it up. But I am the worst. Raven came out and did some shows with AWF, and I mean, look, it was AWF. But Raven was Raven. And everything I've read about this guy, everything I've seen from this guy makes me think he's an absolute genius. And so I went into it with that preconceived notion of this guy's a genius that by all accounts should be either dead from drugs or, in another life is like some superhuman mathematician saving us all from the apocalypse. But in this life, he chose to be a wrestler and bless us with his presence here at this crappy venue in Penrith.
He was here in Adelaide for, I think it was around the same time as AWF. He wrestled for, I think it was High Risk Pro Wrestling, who is now defunct.
HRPW.
Who's now defunct. And he has that, like you said, that whole aura thing. I can understand why he's on your list.
Just feels like a special individual,
How
just like everyone knows who Raven is.
And he was at an era, too, where lots of people used the DDT as a finisher, because he came just after Jake the Snake, right? And Jake the Snake sort of popularized the DDT. But his DDT was just like the way he would build to it in his match. It always felt special. Like you popped for it, and you know, imagine popping for a DDT now in 2019. But I bet you if he got in the ring tomorrow, he could still build to that DDT in a way that just it makes the crowd go mental.
Maybe Impact will book it or something with the way they're presenting him.
With the way they're going, yeah, probably.
Yeah. My number 4 is Hideki Suzuki.
Amazing.
Good choice.
I'm pretty sure myself and Greg were one of the only people who got to see him.
Yeah, we're 2 of 90 people in Australia who have seen Hideki Suzuki wrestle live.
Yeah, like
I'm not one of those 90.
His match against Jonah Rock was just something special. You didn't ever saw J-Rock Matt wrestle like that, because he's usually just a big lad powering people around. And yeah, it was just the way he presented himself. He's one of the best in the world, like, at what he does.
Yeah. That match hasn't received enough praise either. That was we didn't do lists or anything because we weren't around for the full year, but that was easily in my top 5 Australian matches for last year. And we didn't do the list, but I'm putting it out there. I would have had that probably at number 4. So, like, it was an amazing match, and not enough people have raved about it, in my opinion.
Go watch the Iron Fist Pro show if you want to see it. It's amazing.
Cheap plug. We hosted the Iron Fist Pro show on our Facebook. We did like a live watch party and, chatted through it. I was the only person really chatting. A few people dropped in and out throughout the show, but, it was a Sunday afternoon. But it is up on the B Plus Facebook if you want to go see it. And, of course, Iron Fist Pro socials as well. Mr. Mysterious, number 4.
Number 4 for me, I am in agreement with Mikey. I went with Jonah Rock.
Nice.
So I've seen Jonah perform about 4 or 5 times last year, 2018. The first one was part of the New Japan tour. TMDK faced off against the Bullet Club, which was an impressive showing. Bad Luck Fale and Jonah kind of sized each other up, and the big boy chants were just deafening. It was awesome. Then he came back for EPW in it wasn't last man standing. He faced off against Julian Ward, and he came for NHPW for a match with Low Key for the MLW Heavyweight Championship. And finally, at the end of the leg of Perth Tour, he was here for World Series Wrestling, where he joined up with Walter.
The King's Road Warriors.
Yeah.
What an amazing tag team.
I saw the Julian Ward match at the Reawakening show. He just young boyed him really well and made Ward look like a star. But Jonah is one of a kind, special talent.
Yeah, well, he's another one of those guys who, and honestly, number 6 on my list. Like, it would be, but we had to stick to top 5. He's another one of those guys where, similar to when I put Chris Basso down, and I have to admit, part of me putting Chris Basso down was I feel like other people are going to have Jonah Rock down. So, part of it, but it is, when he gets in the ring with someone, they look like a star by proxy. As you said with Julian Ward, that was a star-making performance for Julian Ward.
Yeah, it was,
even in loss.
Yes.
He went over to Ireland for OTT and faced this guy I'd never even heard of before called Terry Thatcher, and he beat the shit out of him and made him look like
the kid just kept coming.
Yeah.
We were watching that match together and we were both in the chat just being like, just end it. Yeah. Like, why is this match not ending? Just, this kid is dead.
But by the end of it, like, people had gotten behind Terry for the fighting spirit, and Jonah Jonah makes people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, think like right here in Adelaide, think of the people that have stepped in the ring and come out. Rat Daddy, imagine he's going to make Tommy Knight in 15, 20 short minutes.
In the series of Istria, fantastic.
Of course. Yeah. It's so, I think, that's a good criteria to have star makers, right? Like the people who get in the ring and make other people look great.
Absolutely. And kind of one of the things that Aiden kind of touched on was that Jonah is, like, obviously the big super heavyweight. He's deceptively fast, and he can do the mat wrestling if he needs to. So he's
very well-rounded.
Very well-rounded.
Yeah. In terms of my thing with the aura, when he throws the claws up, like, he definitely, like, he's a big man. You can feel it off him too. So, moving on though, number 3. Number 3, I have another big man. You guys went with a monster for number 4 there. I've gone with a machine. for number 3. Brian Cage. Mr. Get My Shit In. Yeah. Just, I mean, talk about freaks of nature, though. Like, this guy, the size he is, the muscles he has, the things he can do.
How agile he is.
Like, yeah, when I talk about, like I said, the aura, just that's a special person. Like, if you saw him walking down the street, you turn your head, you know?
I saw him all three times at World Series, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I've seen him a couple times with World Series Wrestling, and it's never not impressive.
That 3-way with Ricochet and was it Austin Aries at the time?
Yeah, Austin Aries and Ricochet and Ricochet became the first World Series Wrestling champion. We got that here in Adelaide. That was amazing. That match.
I'm pretty sure everyone got behind Brian Cage more than anyone in that match. Just the things he was pulling out.
Yeah. Well, and talk about star making, right? Like, that was a big point with Jonah Rock and with Chris Basso and with a lot of these guys, being able to make other people look great. Yeah. In the Fatal 4-Way that he had in Adelaide too.
With Mick Moretti?
All those guys, Mick Moretti, Elliot Sexton and stuff, all those guys were already stars for us. Was it, who was the other guy? Big Brody Marshall, was it?
Okay.
Was it?
I'm not sure. Don't hold me on that.
But the one that stands out, of course, is Mick Moretti. That match was put on Impact, right? And it felt like so that was at a time when the Impact commentators were doing, so it was Don Callis and Josh Matthews, and they were doing commentary after the fact, so obviously it's a taped show. And so they go into the studio a week later and they lay down the commentary for all the shows. And on these Brian Cage road matches, right? They were doing a Brian Cage World Tour. So he was in Japan, they showed a match of his in Japan. He was in Saskatchewan, they showed a match. And so he got a match in there from Australia, had Mick Moretti in there. And Don Callis, you could hear throughout the match, go back and watch this on whatever episode of Impact it is, you can hear Don Callis actually become a fan of Mick Moretti throughout this match. Because whenever he was facing off against Cage, like Cage was, his job, Don Callis' job was to shit on everyone else in the match except Brian Cage, right? Because Brian Cage is the Impact guy. Yeah. But at one point he was like, oh, this Mick Moretti guy's actually impressive. And then he stopped shitting on Mick Moretti and just kept shitting on Elliot Sexton and Brody Marshall. But that's again a testament to the star-making ability of Brian Cage, and of course the other people he was in the ring with. Mick Moretti was one that I very much wanted to put on the list as well, but I don't think I've seen him live enough.
I'll just quickly weigh in. I saw Brian Cage defend the X Division Championship for World Series Wrestling against Bandito, and just the way he flipped, like the way he moved Bandito around and then went to... So Bandito would go for a lot of moonsaults, he would miss half the time, and then Brian Cage would then catch him, slam him down, and then do a moonsault to follow after him. Just to show him up.
Yeah, that's crazy. The strength is insane. The agility is insane. Yeah, Brian Cage, number 3 for me.
Great
Who
choice.
You got?
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Christmas has come and gone, and with it, the disappointment of those Secret Santa staples, the shave kit, the sports hygiene packs, and seasonal socks is fading. As we roll on, though, into the new year, it's time to make resolutions, so why not resolve to look better in 2019 and get yourself the gift that keeps on giving and never disappoints, Threadbox. Threadbox is a subscription clothes shopping service which for as little as $40 per month will send you a box of personally curated goodies straight to your doorstep. I get the $160 package, which comes with over $200 worth of fresh goodies each month. Kept me looking fly for all my Christmas engagements this year. You get to communicate with the Threadbox stylist assigned to you by email regarding what it is you need, and they will tailor the box accordingly. And in the unlikely event that you don't like what they send you, you send it back, they will replace it with something new and make note of the things you don't like so that they can avoid that kind of thing in the future. Threadbox is a truly unbelievable service that no man should be living without, so head over to threadbox.com.au today and use our code TheB+15 when you check out to get 15% off your first box. January is here and we are fast approaching WrestleMania season. Royal Rumble and the road to WrestleMania are around the corner, so the time to dilly-dally is past us. If you want to experience WrestleMania live, and who doesn't, let's be honest, you deserve it. The best and really the only way to do it is with All Aussie Travelers. All Aussie Travelers are new to the wrestling travel package game, but they are veterans at travel, and they have put together a package that cannot be beaten. For less than $7,500, all Aussie travelers are going to send you to New York, New York, with return flights, airport transfers, full accommodation, and tickets to the WWE Hall of Fame, NXT pre-show party, NXT TakeOver, WrestleMania, Monday Night Raw, SmackDown Live, and more. The coolest part about these packages is that for NXT TakeOver, Raw, and SmackDown, you are going to be seated in your own private VIP suite, normally not available to the public. But all Aussie travelers have you covered, man. They got this locked down. It has its own bar, it has its own bathroom access, and all the luxuries that a VIP box comes with, not least of which, of course, an incredible view for everything happening in the ring. All of this for under $7,500. They're practically giving these packages away, man. You'd be crazy not to check it out. So head over to All Aussie Travelers on Facebook. The link is in the show notes. And tell them that the B Plus sent you. And let's go watch WrestleMania in style.
I have Zack Sabre Jr. keeping to the mat wrestling style.
I'm glad. Yeah.
Zack, I'd been following for a long time, and finally seeing him for World Series against Jonah Rock, of all people. Just absolutely incredible. And then he faced Robbie Eagles the next time he came down, and that was fantastic too. Probably one of the best technical wrestlers in the world.
Yeah. That Jonah Rock Zack Sabre Jr. match was one of my favorite matches I've ever seen.
I can agree to that. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Just incredible work from both guys. You know who I'd like to see Zack Sabre Jr. Face off against is Mr. Mysterious's number 5, Gavin McGavin.
AJ Istria for me as well.
Yeah, AJ Istria would be a good one, but just, yeah. Zack Sabre Jr. is a very good choice. We have very similar tastes, Aiden. I like it.
Okay, so for my number 3, I kind of went, I think I was the only one who picked a women's wrestler for this one.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all terrible misogynists, unfortunately.
But for this one, I actually picked Saraya Knight. She actually came to Perth for a couple shows for NHPW, and I was able to witness her go to a country show in a town called Meriden. Sold out theatre, and the whole premise of it was she can take on anyone in the roster. It was going to be a handicap match, but they made her pick a tag partner. So come to the end of the night, she randomly picks out a cameraman, makes him the tag partner, and proceeds to basically brawl up and down stairs. And like she gets tombstone onto a stage. She's one of the most violent, and you talk about aura, and like one of the amazing stage presences I've ever seen.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I haven't seen her live and in person, but it comes through the screen with her, I feel.
It's like it's not a persona more, so it's just her.
Yeah.
I can't really touch on Saraya. I haven't seen too much of her. I've seen bits and pieces, but I can understand where you're coming from on that.
Yeah. I'm going to take this chance because of course, Aiden and I are terrible misogynists and didn't put any women in our list. I'm going to take this chance to put honorable mentions for, of course, Shazza McKenzie, my favorite Australian wrestler of all time, but also, and someone who actually reminds me of Saraya Knight just in terms of vibe, Avery.
That's well, I was about to say if we were doing honorable mentions, mine was going to be Avery. She's my favorite in the country.
Yeah, so like if in terms of people I've seen live, she would actually probably be around number 7 or 8, like very, very close to making the list. And yeah, Avery, she has that, again, it's the aura for me. The aura is that's what I'm looking for. And she actually reminds me of Saraya Knight in little ways.
Yeah, she's
Absolutely.
batshit crazy as well. Like the Glow Girl stuff she done, like, and recently she done like she was like, did you see on Instagram the barbed wire stuck in her
saw on
leg?
Instagram the barbed wire. Yeah, she had a match with Vixen at Wrestle Rock.
Yeah, she wrestled
always
intergender death matches, normal matches. She's one of the best all around.
Yeah, so so the honorable mentions are going off. Yeah, it's fantastic. Definitely, I like that choice too. Saraya Knight's a great choice, and I'm glad we all agree on Avery being an absolute megastar. And I'm surprised she didn't make any of our lists, to be honest, because she's been very prominent throughout the end of 2018.
I'm sorry, Avery.
We're sorry.
Moving on to number 2, we're getting to the final ones now. Number 2 for me is from that New Japan tour, one Kazuchika Okada. Talk about aura.
Oh.
Holy crap. I've only seen this bloke once live, but it was enough to propel him to, like, because he comes out, he does that Rainmaker pose, right? And, like, the Adelaide venue, you'll know what I'm talking about with this, Aiden. The Adelaide venue for the New Japan show was awful.
Oh, hell, like Titanium Arena, whatever it was.
Yeah, because it wasn't packed to the gills, obviously. It's their first tour in Australia, and they probably would have been serviced better. Like, if that was in Don
I was about to say that. If it was Don Polsky, it would have been amazing.
Yeah. If it was in Don Polsky, it would have been off the chains because the crowd was the right size and everything. Like, it was a good crowd, but because of the way it was spaced, the ringside seats, and then you've got a basketball court before you get to the
atmosphere would have been way better in a smaller venue.
Yeah. But that said, even though the atmosphere was a little off in that venue, when Okada came out, you felt it in the building.
And that's when Bucks went up to heavyweight. I'm pretty sure it was Okada and Ishii against the Bucks, and what a match that was.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I mean. It wasn't even a one-on-one match or anything, but it was an insane match. It was crazy. And yeah, just the Rainmaker pose on the turnbuckle. And again, similar to Basso, the robes, the belt looks amazing because he was champion at that time.
Like you said about people like looking good with the belt, he looked fantastic with the belt. Like, he just looks like a champion.
He's a star. Yeah. I will mention, because I mentioned my criteria earlier, because I did actually see Okada for the Perth tour. He and Rocky Romero faced off against Evil and Sonata, and as much as I wanted to call his match like amazing, he actually did his shoulder halfway through, and they had to kind of end the match early. So, like, in terms of like me seeing him live, it wasn't his best showing, which is why he's not on my list.
Yeah, that's going to impact a thing or two. That's perfectly understandable.
My number 2 from that same tour that we both went to, Jay White.
Nice.
He had a match against Elliot Sexton, who should have been on my list. Absolutely, Jay presents himself as a mega heel, like lately with New Japan and everything. Like, great character. He's very leader-like. Like,
people talk about he hadn't really found himself. Like, he even talked himself about 2017 at the Dome. 2018 at the Dome versus 2019 at the Dome, and sort of between those two shows, he found himself and found his confidence. And I feel like by the time he got to Australia, he'd found it because you definitely felt it when he came out too.
I think he found it during the G1 in 2018, like where he was doing like all the cheap wins and everything, and he got the clean wins against Tanahashi and Okada, and just and going into 2019 after that match with Okada, he's just a superstar, like one of the best heels going around, and he looks like a leader.
Do we count him as Australian? He did some stuff in Australia before, because he's a Kiwi, and he did some stuff here before he went over. So I think we count that as another Australian in the top 5.
Yeah, honourable Australian. He reminds me very much of old Devitt when he was in the Bullet Club.
Yeah. Very much so, except heavyweight,
There's a reason that he's the leader of the Bullet Club now.
Yeah, exactly.
So my number 2, again, now we're all on the New Japan tour. My pick was Cody Rhodes. He appeared in a triple threat match for the New Japan tour against Will Ospreay and Robbie Eagles. This was kind of when he was slowly, like, this was kind of just before the Bullet Club is Fine kind of thing came out, and he was starting to challenge for leadership against Omega. Like, he's used the One Wing Angel to end the match. Like, he used Healy's tactic. Half the crowd loved him, half the crowd hated him, and he fed off it throughout the entire night. Like, one of the reasons he's on my list, because obviously, like, watching him from WWE all those years, when he suddenly came for the New Japan tour, it seemed like everything he did was completely different, but in the best way.
Yeah, he changed a lot.
We didn't get that same showing here. His match against Romero wasn't that great. But
with Aura, though, man, again, I lost my mind when the music is perfect, first off. Good choice on the music.
I think Brandy got big pop here, though, because it was like the We Want Brandy chants.
He cut the promo thanking everyone. But that's the thing, too, and when I talk about the Aura as well, the coming off as genuine, he comes off so genuine now.
Yeah.
Right? like even at that point when he was cutting that promo and stuff, so I can 100% see why Cody would be on a list. Yeah, for sure. Should we move on to the number ones?
I think so, yeah.
When you guys told me your number ones before, like, look, great choices, guys, but I have to say that mine is better because mine is the GOAT. And I'm surprised this guy didn't make more lists. He's famous for lists. Chris Jericho, Y2J. Amazing.
I haven't seen him. Wait, I haven't seen.
No.
I've seen him.
live.
Never mind. He tagged with Seth Rollins when he was a heel here.
Right. I've only seen him in a WWE context live, but it was enough. This was I can remember specifically the Ruthless Aggression Tour.
Okay.
In, 2005, I guess? It was like the first that they did in Sydney in a long time. Like they came down for global warming or whatever it was in Melbourne. And then they didn't come back for a couple of years, but when they did Sydney, and I went to that one. So I don't know if it was Ruthless Aggression. That might have been the second one. But it was their first tour where they'd gone to Sydney, and I was lucky enough to go along. I was maybe 13, 14. And yeah, Chris Jericho, he was the first person I ever, and again, this could just be because it was one of my first big live shows or whatever, but he was the first person I ever heard turn that "you are a wanker" chant into something for himself. I'm pretty sure he was teaming with Edge and Christian, and
that would have been
cool. He did this thing where everyone was chanting "you are a wanker," and he turned it around like he was like, I don't know what this wanker thing is, but if we're wankers, it must be pretty awesome. And then throughout the rest of the match, they were calling themselves wankers. And you just want to talk about star. And like I was talking about, like the way you look with a belt, Chris Jericho always looks good with the belt, like whether he's got the jacket on or, the classic shot that I can never get out of my head of him holding up the two belts after beating Rock and Austin in the same night, which, I mean, I didn't see that live, but you felt it.
Yeah.
You felt it in his presence live. He's just a super mega ultra next level star. Like, I should not be on the same planet as this dude. Like, how is this guy the same species as me? And yeah, Chris Jericho, man, I feel it with that guy.
He's continually reinventing himself every few years. Like, gone are the days of Y2J, the Ayatollah. Like, he continuously tries to find new ways to make himself fresh. And obviously with New Japan and now All Elite Wrestling, like, he's more prominent now than he's ever been, I would say.
Yeah. I feel like, so the big important thing for me getting to Super Showdown was to see Undertaker live, right? And he didn't make my list because it wasn't, like you said, Mysterious, it wasn't a great showing, right?
Yeah.
But it was cool to be there for that vibe. And I feel like Chris Jericho is probably going to be that for, like, my kids. Like, in 10 years' time, my kids will be like, oh, wow, Dad, you saw Chris Jericho live, like, 4 times when he came out on various tours. Like, that's amazing, Because he's got this legendary presence.
Don't doubt you for a second on that one, yeah.
Yeah, I can feel that. Like, I've only seen Jericho once, I think, and it was him and Seth Rollins at the time against Finn Balor and someone else. I can't remember who it was. And he did the wanker chant thing again.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it's been done every WWE tour since. And so I don't know if he was the first person to do it. I don't know. But I was 13 and I thought it was the funniest thing ever. And of course, like, I was in that phase too where it was like, cheer the bad guys,
Yeah.
Cause you thought you were edgy. So it was, yeah. It's a lifelong love affair with Jericho for sure.
My number one, I begged World Series to book this guy, and they did. Matt Riddle.
Nice.
The King of Bros.
So we should thank you for Matt Riddle coming down.
I'll take all the credit for that. 'Cause I tweeted it, and then they liked it, and then the next week he was booked. So I'm just going to take all the credit.
It's all you, man. It's all you. Yeah, take that credit.
Now, Matt Riddle is just everything a star should be. The way he presents himself, he connects with the crowd. He's, as a person as well, very friendly, very outgoing.
Yeah, wears no shoes.
Wears no shoes. Who
Always stoned.
Who else can wear a dress shirt, a tie, and sandals to a meeting with Triple H?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
Will Ospreay versus Matt Riddle from last year was one of the best matches I'd ever seen, and him and Istria at World Series, absolutely incredible.
I don't know how we never ran into each other at any of these events. Like, like we're talking about 200-300 people there, and I'd never seen you before in my life.
But yeah, Matt Riddle, just everything about him. Like, I love the mat wrestling. I love the character. I love how genuine he is, and he follows me on Twitter.
Well, that's going to help him, right? That's going to help him.
I would say MLW recently released in full the crowning of their inaugural MLW champion, where it was between Matt Riddle and Shane Strickland, and it went for about, felt like 30 to nearly 40 minutes. It was a strong showing for both. Like, even in defeat, Matt Riddle looked like absolute megastar.
And the way WWE are portraying him at the moment on NXT, his first match in the company that was televised, he knocked out Cassius Ohno in about 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and again, like you said, he shows up to a meeting with Triple H in sandals. Like, you have to be a special person. You have to be. You know?
Have to be
like,
confident in yourself and just, project.
Yeah. It's, well, not just confident in yourself, but like in a way that it doesn't rub people the wrong way as well. You know, because Randy Orton is confident in himself, but no one thinks he's a star. Everyone just thinks he's a dick.
I think there's a difference between confidence and cocky.
It's a very fine line to walk.
Matt Riddle's just a bro. Like, who else can do that?
And Mr. Mysterious?
Okay, so my number one, I only saw this gentleman once come to Perth, and I think that was all it took just for him to take my heart and just run away with it to parts unknown. But I chose the professional Low-Key.
It's got romantic.
A little bit.
I'm so jealous you got to see Low-Key.
It felt amazing. It felt special because he was defending the MLW Championship against Jonah Rock. Again, like we keep mentioning him, but this was a 40, 50 minute grappling match mixed with professional wrestling. You mentioned Aura as well. He came out doing the haka.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, it was an amazing haka as well. It timed out really well. Then, of course, they announced it the UFC fights, and then Jonah would fling Low-Key around all around the ring, but at the same time, Low-Key would all of a sudden just lock in like a dragon lock, or he would just systematically kick Jonah Rock into the dirt. He actually won by submission. He knocked him out with a dragon sleeper, I think it was, but you never knew what was going to happen all throughout. And he's just, for 20 years, the guy has been killing it.
That's similar to the Hideki Suzuki match. That unpredictability.
Yeah, with the legitimacy as well.
Yeah, just the legitimacy and I think Matt Riddle has a lot of that too.
Yeah,
so
he does,
that's why he doesn't run the ropes.
Chris Jericho doesn't. Talk about you guys have these ultra legit could completely kick your ass number ones, and I have a guy that wears spandex even when he's not wrestling.
Well, he's a rock star as well, to be fair.
With Low-Key, just his attire as well. Did he come out with the Hitman attire in Perth?
No, not for Perth. Because he was doing the haka, he came out in the garb. He had the facial tattoos on and everything. But
all right, the full Polynesian get up.
Polynesian get up, which I respected. As much as I wanted to see Agent 47 come out and just crush it for the fans,
Well, you got to talk to him as well, so I feel like you're going to be a bit biased there.
I might be a little bit, but he's my first international interview that I put up for the for all the B+ stuff I've done, which was really something special. I was really surprised I was able to do it, and you don't just casually ask Low-Key, "Hey, can I talk to you?" I just made sure to let out exactly there's a reason he's called the professional. You tell him exactly what you wanted to do, exactly what you want to say, and he's just okay, you know what you're doing, just go with it.
I'm so jealous he didn't come here and it was only Perth.
Yeah,
he's only been in Perth the entire time he's been to Australia.
He's never been anywhere else. Yeah,
no, it's just very. Obviously, he wants to. I said that in his interview, but he's just never.
I think he's just super tight with Mana. Is all.
Yeah, maybe someone. If only we knew someone who promotes shows in other parts of the country. Maybe those kind individuals could book Low-Key, especially if they were fans of legitimate athletes and that kind of style. Gee, I wonder who it could be. But no, you mentioned though him being the first international you spoke to for the bplus.com.
Mhm.
And one of the things we pride ourselves on is being all about the Aussie Graps. And I have teed up an international interview who people are going to see live shortly. And I think that eventually he will make a list like this for me. So people should stay tuned. If you're listening to this on Patreon, thank you for supporting us.
Thanks, guys.
And this Friday we have coming out our first international interview as part of our Aussie Graps episode. I'm breaking the gimmick. It's happening. You guys should... if you're on Patreon and you're hearing this, you already know. But if you're not on Patreon and you're hearing this, please hit that subscribe button, scroll back in the feed, and listen to our first ever international interview. That takes place on Friday, the 25th of January. If you're listening to this sometime in the future and you want to find who our first international interview was, you'll be able to find it there. And thank you guys so much for, again, Patreon subscribers that are hearing this first. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You guys are enabling us to grow this thing. We got new art coming in. We've got new music coming in. We've got all sorts of really cool things, and it's all because you guys are helping us out, and we appreciate you to the ends of the earth and back, much like Loki took Mr. Mysterious's heart and ran away with it. So and if you're not on the Patreon and you want to be a part of this amazing thing, and you want to be able to do this and tell us what we should talk about for 40 minutes, then the only place to do it is Patreon. So patreon.com/theb+. Where can people find you guys?
I'll go. You guys can find me at Mr. Mysterious with the 1 and 7 I on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all the socials pretty much.
Right, and Aiden doesn't like to give out social media because he is a true man of mystery.
That is very true.
Yeah, he only likes to have his friends on it. Aiden's a grump, really. A grump IRL. I am at Greg Unchained on Twitter, at the Greg Unchained on Instagram. We collectively are the B Plus Wrestling on Twitter because wrestling wouldn't fit the B Plus Wrestling everywhere else except for Patreon. We already went through that. Like, share, subscribe, 5-star review if you like what we do, and thank you so much for listening.
See you guys.
Hold one. Arm drag.
You're not doing this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
So, no speak English.
Dummy. Yeah.
Goodbye and good night.
Hold two. Arm bar.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
It's still real to me, damn it. Dummy. Yeah. Hold three. The moss covered.